All right. Hello. Anybody? Anybody here online? Anybody out there on the internet somewhere? Anybody interested in listening to me do a live stream? Hey, I'm live. So guess we will go ahead and start. Uh, so this is the first live stream. I don't know if anyone's here or if I'm just by myself. I guess if you're here, just let me know in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. It's the first time I'm doing it. Just thought I'd try it out. I don't know if anybody wants to talk or what you'd like to talk about. I mean, it's been a lot of stuff going on this week. I guess Frank Miller got canceled again. Scarlett Johansson sued Disney. That seemed to turn into a whole kerfuffle. Seemed like it became much larger than anyone could have anticipated. Maybe larger than she might have anticipated herself. I guess there's a lot to take in there. I mean, I could start there. I think that's the video I got the most views for was the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit little quick briefing I did. So I guess I'll begin with that. If anybody wants to jump in at any point, we can take it from there. But pretty much, I think I'll go with that. If anybody wants to add anything else, then feel free to add. All right. So the Scarlett Johansson thing is interesting for a few reasons. Beyond the trailer had some interesting points she had made online too, about watermarks, about what this means for not just theatrical releases, but digital releases as well. And I guess I just begin at the beginning. Just as a quick recap, Scarlett Johansson sued Disney. Was not a surprise to me at all. I figured it was just a matter of time. I actually thought that's why Disney was pushing back Black Widow so many times, was because they were trying to wait for the theatrical markets to open back up and they would not have to do any kind of day and date Disney Plus release. I figured they understood the stakes if they were to release Black Widow online simultaneously with its theatrical release. Scarlett Johansson is a producer on the Black Widow movie, so it would be in her best interest from a professional standpoint and from a legal standpoint to protect her interests as both a producer and as an actor. So it wouldn't do her any good to just let the movie come out on Disney Plus. I was on Robert Meyer Burnett's channel yesterday, and another guest made the point of saying that putting it on Disney Plus kind of gives it the TV movie flavor. And it's pretty much exactly what it was. I think he hit the nail right on the head. So her movie got released on Disney Plus. Essentially, it's a TV movie now. Multiple different outlets came out saying that the Disney Plus release essentially cannibalized potential paying customers in the theatrical market. And theaters are already having a tough time. They're trying to bounce back as much as possible, but they haven't had a lot of success. I mean, there were things like Space Jam, Godzilla vs. Kong. I think Mortal Kombat might have been one of the earlier things that came out as theaters were starting to rebound. But that was at a time when the pandemic was still really raging all across the country. There was still no clear path forward on what was going to happen, what was going to be done. So those really weren't good indicators of how the theatrical market would fare going forward, what the theatrical experience would look like. moving through the rest of this year and into 2022, especially as bigger movies start to come back to theaters. Um, so Black Widow was really supposed to be that first film that would test the strength of the film market in the United States and abroad. The first step, or the first part of things falling apart, was China not releasing the movie. Because China would give it a release date, a significant amount of its international box office was threatened. Um, Not to mention Japan as well. So two major Asian markets just decided to set out on the movie. But and again, it came down to Disney's business. With Japan anyway, it was about playing hardball, asking for too much money, a larger cut of the ticket sales than is normal. So it's nothing new. Anybody that's followed Disney knows they pretty much strong arm any theater that they work with. They use some pretty heavy-handed tactics with Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, and all of the new Star Wars films. So shouldn't be a surprise to anybody to hear that they play hardball when it comes to the amount of money they get out of the theatrical experience. Um, and that whole back and forth, the controversy around the way that they handle their business in theaters actually makes Disney Plus that much more attractive to them. If they can just put a movie on Disney Plus, they don't have to fight with theaters. They don't have to worry about ticket sale cuts. And that brings us Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit because they also don't have to worry about compensating actors. Right now, there's really no clear precedent for how you compensate actors for streaming. Um, I mean, of course, Netflix makes big payouts up front, but their films are understood to be streaming only. Um, HBO Max paid out for their entire 2021 slate. I believe Denzel Washington got $20 million for The Little Things. Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins got $10 million for a Wonder Woman as they were kind of testing the waters on the theatrical and HBO Max simultaneous releases. So they already have some kind of a strategy worked out, but it's not really set in stone. Denis Villeneuve, Christopher Nolan, I'm sure there are much more filmmakers behind the scenes that all really revolted and hated the idea of doing any kind of simultaneous theatrical and streaming release because they felt like it cheapened their film and that they created films that were meant to be experienced as a group in that communal theater environment. So because there's really been no clear precedent, Disney kind of had some gray area to varying degrees of success, depending on, what side you fall on the argument. They had some wiggle room to release this film on Disney Plus and not compensate Scarlett Johansson. From the looks of things, Scarlett Johansson has attempted to reach out to Disney in the past. He's attempted to make some kind of financial agreement, but again, Disney is playing hardball because Disney Plus is a cash cow. You keep all the money you make on Disney Plus. None of that has to be split with theaters. There are no back-end participation deals the way there are back-end participation deals with talent in theaters. So the incentive for Disney is to do what they need to get it on Disney Plus as soon as possible and to make as much money as possible on Disney Plus because that is all profit. There's no one to share it with. And that lack of sharing is what started to grind Scarlett Johansson's gears. I'm sure that like every other streamer, they're opaque on purpose so that they can obscure how much money they're making, but they also made the unusual decision to announce how much money Black Widow made on its opening weekend through Disney Plus. I believe it was $60 million. So they put Scarlett Johansson in a very awkward position. They released her movie in theaters but also released an easy to pirate HD version and left one of the major film going markets around the world off the table. So China's off the table, Japan is off the table, but they still put the movie out. And they not only still put it out in theaters, but allowed people to get their hands on it very quickly and easily over Disney Plus. So that not only makes the theater ticket look way more expensive and way more unnecessary, it's also giving people that want to pirate easy access with a very low barrier. So, I mean, where are we at now? The lawsuit was at this point, what, 2 days ago? And stayed in the news cycle. Disney replied. CAA replied on her behalf to Disney's response. And that was extremely telling for CAA to come back and respond on Scarlett Johansson's behalf. Just shows that this is something that she's serious about. This is something the industry is serious about. And this lawsuit is going to be a landmark. This is going to be something that gets referred to. This is going to set a precedent. A lot of this is still the Wild West. There's no set in stone way to react to a streaming release. I believe it was mentioned today that Emma Stone is considering a lawsuit of her own because this is all uncharted territory for everybody. There's no clear way how to move forward. And you don't want to be seen as someone litigious, someone that's always suing, because you're ruining relationships, you're potentially burning bridges, you're Hollywood executive will say you're being unprofessional, but there's no reason why you advocating on your own behalf or finding legal representation to advocate for you should be considered unprofessional. You're just looking for the same financial benefits that the people you're working with get. So if you're working with Disney, you want to make sure you can get money just like Disney gets money, proportional to the original contractual agreements. And that brings up another element of Scarlett Johansson's contract, which is, from what I read on THR Esquire today, does not leave a lot of room for this lawsuit. But Scarlett Johansson specifically sued Disney and wanted to make sure it was clear in the lawsuit that Disney participated in torturous interference by making Marvel break a contract. So if she had sued Marvel, there would have been arbitration in place. So there would be no lawsuit. They would have gone directly to an arbitrator. Because she wanted to avoid that arbitration, she sued Disney and then accused them of torturous interference. That way, she can actually get this out in the public and make it a fight that everyone can see. And strategically, it's smart. That's why Disney was so quick to go back on the offensive, release the information about her salary, and overall try to infer that her lawsuit is somehow related to COVID-19 or somehow insensitive or disregards the pandemic or is insensitive in some way. I mean, just on its face, that's kind of the pot calling the kettle black, considering I believe Disney received $500 million in paycheck protection money, but fired workers. So being insensitive when it comes to any kind of disease related business transactions is right up Disney's alley. They really seem like they have no scruples there. So I'm not sure what argument they were trying to make, but they made it nonetheless. Then beyond that, we have Scarlett Johansson's lawyer, John Berlinski, and he actually worked on behalf of the Bones creative team, and they missed out on some participation due to self-dealing. Not quite the same situation, but it was Fox and Hulu, so a little bit closer to what happened with Frank Darabont in The Walking Dead, but on the digital side. So he actually came out on top, and that was through arbitration. The arbiter awarded, I believe, $160 million, but there was no way for that to be enforceable because the arbitration can't give punitive damages. It can only give the $50 million due because of the fraud in the Hulu Fox deal. So the $100 million was left on the table there, but Berlinski is a serious lawyer. He has a background in this kind of streaming back and forth, streaming shenanigans, whatever you want to call it. So Scarlett Johansson is bringing in heavyweights. She's clearly not joking. This isn't just a stunt. She may want to settle. This may all be about eventually finding a way or some method to come to a mutually agreed upon conclusion financially, but she's completely prepared to go all the way. If she has Berlinski in her corner, if Creative Artist Agency is in her corner and speaking on her behalf, speaking proactively after Disney tries to, I guess, just slander her or maybe even defame or make some kind of accusation about her character, then the gloves are starting to come off. Everybody on both sides is very well armed and willing to go as far as it takes, because this is about more than just Scarlett Johansson. I think she understands that. She understood it from the beginning, which is why she got such a good lawyer. And I think Disney is starting to kind of wake up to the fact that this is not going to be a quick, easily settled conflict. She's not a pushover. She came to win. So curious to see where it goes. There's a lot there, a lot to take apart. Either way, Disney is in for a potential drubbing financially, because if they settle with Scarlett Johansson, you're looking at having to settle with The Rock and Emily Blunt. Of course, the reports that came out today spoke on Emma Stone, so she's up for some potential compensation as well. There's really no way to predict what will happen. In Disney's defense, they have the fact that Scarlett Johansson is not necessarily a name, but honestly, none of the Marvel actors are name actors. They can't really make money on their own outside of whatever Marvel brand they're associated with. Robert Downey Jr. flopped terribly with Doolittle. Made decent money with Sherlock Holmes. You could make a variety of arguments as to why that is. Guy Ritchie made some pretty solid films with both Sherlock Holmes movies. They were a little bit more action oriented, a little bit closer to his Iron Man persona. That could play a role too, but I mean, Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, none of them really light the box office on fire. If anything, they tend to have some pretty significant clunkers. Hemsworth had Black Hat that really didn't work out. I believe his biggest hit has been Extraction, which was on Netflix. So there's really no way to calibrate how big or small of a hit that was. I believe it was just announced that it was very popular, so that we're going to make another one. But you know what very popular means in Netflix world, Netflix terms, it's kind of nebulous, intentionally, because again, streamers don't really want there to be any defined metrics out about how Extraction may or may not have driven up subscribers, because that opens them up to potentially having to compensate Chris Hemsworth for driving new subscriptions on Netflix. Who else has really been in a Marvel film? Chris Pratt. I guess he did the Jurassic World films. They've done some pretty big numbers, but again, the franchise was Jurassic Park. So was it really Chris Pratt people were going to see, or were people going to see all the CGI dinosaurs? I would lean more towards the latter. Who else has been in a Marvel film? Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle was in Space Jam, but That didn't do much. Um, Before that, I guess Hotel Rwanda was his biggest splash, and that wasn't really much on the financial end. It was more just a critical darling. Um, Trying to think of who else is really uh, maybe Bradley Cooper. That might be the most successful actor to be in a Marvel film, consistently successful actor. But again, he's Rocket Raccoon. He's not really banking on his star power when he comes into the Marvel world, which I guess is ironic. Um, I mean, when it comes to Scarlett Johansson, she's not really the biggest draw box office wise. She's done things like Ghost in the Shell. She's definitely an action star, but Lucy was her only real big hit. So I don't know if it's fair to say she's a star outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if you just take Black Widow straight up as it is and run comps with it and compare the Black Widow box office to a Jason Bourne, then the box office is about what and what. Um, Black Widow has been doing really bad though. I think it's kind of hard to overlook just how rough it is. I mean, Tenet came out last year and made more money with less theaters. So Tenet was considered a disaster last year, but made about 40 million more worldwide than Black Widow has so far. And again, did it with half as many theaters in the midst of the pandemic. So there's cause for concern. I believe that Scarlett Johansson has merit when it comes to this lawsuit. Will she prevail over Disney? That's pretty hard to say at this point. Um, there's a lot we don't know. There's a lot that isn't public yet. Has she been reaching out to Kevin Feige this whole time? Uh, will she continue to work for Disney after this? Um, I think how much of a scorched earth approach she has to this lawsuit will probably determine that. But there's animosity on both sides of this. Scarlett Johansson is trying to get paid. She was looking for Robert Downey Jr. money. She wanted to get that same 8% kickback he got for Avengers Endgame, plus the 20 million he got up front. Um, and right now she's poised to get nothing even close. I'm not sure what Disney was trying to accomplish by releasing the fact that she got $20 million up front. If you look at the Marvel films for the veteran actors with back end deals, that's standard. Robert Downey got his 20 million. I believe Chris Evans got something, maybe 12 to 15. Hemsworth probably around the same. So she got her due. Her getting $20 million kind of to the CAA head honcho's point is normal. There's really no need to try to shame her, make some kind of inference about her character based on the pay she's already received. Um, the whole Scarlett Johansson ordeal and drama is really sad. Um, it's indicative of strife overall in Disney, maybe a lack of foresight and a lack of planning and increase in focus on short-term quarterly earnings. Um, I think greed is starting to get the better of Disney right now. It shouldn't. They should focus on quality storytelling, I believe. That's what's been setting them apart and allowing them to make as much money as they have recently. And well, quality storytelling and a relentless, shameless drive to just attack their quadrant of the market. They know family movies sell, so they just put out The Lion King, they put out Toy Story, they put out multiple Marvel movies every year. They really found their niche with the live action remakes of their animated films, and they just attack. They just go after it. They give parents that relentlessly. That's what made Disney Plus so successful from the beginning. Such a treasure trove of stuff for kids to watch online, all in one place, all curated to some degree with a level of safety where you know you can put your kids down in front of anything, and it might be educational, it might be funny, it might be a little bit scary or sad, but you know that it's at least at a Disney standard of quality and appropriate content for your children, which is hard. I mean, even on Netflix, you really don't know what exactly you might come across if you put Netflix kids on for your children. I know when I put Netflix on in front of my kids, it's kind of a mixed bag. So I have to pick out exactly what I want them to watch. On Disney, I can pretty much give them the remote, let them choose. Um, so I don't know where things are gonna go. I think it's easy to jump on Bob Chapek because all this has happened under his watch, and none of these kinds of lawsuits or big explosions of talent battling back and forth being visibly, publicly visible. I mean, visibly upset with Disney leadership. I know that happened with Bob Iger. Um, so you can definitely point to Bob Chapek, but I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it indicates where the board is going. Someone on Rob's channel today also made the point that I'm sure they've done cost benefit analysis on just plowing ahead and releasing Black Widow without getting Scarlett Johansson's contract straight. So they knew what that meant, but they also knew getting more Disney Plus subscribers is going to increase their stock value. So whatever it takes to increase that stock value, they will go ahead and take that risk, take that chance. Um, might not make as much sense to you or I, but at the end of the day, they're focused on the business. They're going to do whatever it takes to get ahead, to make more money than their streaming competitors, and to make more money than everyone else in media, terrestrially, on cable, online, in theaters. Disney's going to do whatever it can to dominate. And right now, streaming is where all the growth in the market is. Everyone's at home, everyone's locked down. So they're going to, just like they attack their content area relentlessly, just like they release content to appease their quadrant of the American public, well, the movie going public around the world, they're going to attack the movie going demographic that's at home too. They're going to give them exactly what they want, the way they want it. They see Disney Plus is the way forward for them. Now, is that a permanent solution? Um, if it is, it hasn't been fully worked out. The correct way to handle streaming hasn't been figured out. Beyond the Trailer also brought up watermarks on streaming videos, because right now piracy of online Disney Plus content is extremely easy. There's really no way to tell who posted stolen, pirated movie content that gets posted up on different sites all over the internet. There's no way to tell. A watermark would allow people to trace back exactly who's responsible. I don't know if anyone remembers when Samuel Jackson's script leaked, there was a watermark over that, his Avengers script. So you could clearly see whose script, because they're color coded and watermarked, got leaked out. So anytime photocopies are made or anytime pictures are taken, they're actually going to reveal the origin of the leak. The question now is how do these leaks get contained. It's gonna have to stop because there's so much money to be made in streaming. Disney's going to start to clamp down. Just bottom line, um, there's no way around it. Now, does it have to necessarily be a watermark, a big bar diagonally across your screen whenever you watch a movie? It might not be that blatant, might not be that aggressive. It might just be in a corner or maybe just directly in the middle of the screen, like an ad. Um, so like a pop up ad that you would see on another website. So there's really no way to predict when that's going to happen, if that's going to happen, but more than likely at this point it has to. It's inevitable to some degree. Um, so yeah. What else is going on? I don't know. Uh, let me see. I mean, nobody's here, so I really don't know what you guys want to talk about. I don't know if anybody ever watches this live stream video. I don't know if anyone's gonna watch it, but if anyone ever does watch it, let me know what you want me to talk about on the live stream. Um, I mean, I got into the Scarlett Johansson thing a little bit. I guess quickly in summary, it's a lose-lose for Disney. If they settle, they're gonna have to start settling with everybody. It's gonna be a snowball effect. Scarlett Johansson takes this to court. Um, they're gonna look a little crazy. Hollywood Reporter did make a good point that there's no mentioning in a contract about an exclusive theatrical release or the length of the window for the film's release on theater screens before going to Disney Plus. So there's some wiggle room there. Um, but yeah, so that's that. Disney is in a bit of a pickle. The lawsuit is indicative of their focus on profits and their lack of interest in cultivating or maintaining any talent relationships. Everything is sacrificed at the altar of the almighty dollar. So yeah, I'm gonna go on here and see if anything interesting got released, any new music. Uh, looks like a new Billie Eilish. I don't know. I don't know how you say her name. I've never heard her music, but looks like a new record came out. Prince has some music out. Um, looks like maybe more from his vault. Isaiah Rashad, a great rapper, he came out with an album through Top Dog. I'll have to actually check that out. I haven't tried to listen to that yet. Uh, okay, so young Dolph looks like he got a combo posse cut type album out. Um, look like some interesting rappers. Young Dolph's last album was really good, so I think it's awesome to see him doing some more stuff. Rich Slade was really good. That was his last album. I think he did Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber 2 with Key Glock, who's another rapper from Memphis, and Key Glock is pretty good too. I believe his breakout song was Russian Cream. That was a great song. Um, let's see what else is going on. So some new music to check out. Billie Eilish, however you say that, Isaiah Rashad, Prince, Young Dolph. Uh, Tink looks like Logic 2. Uh, okay, we got a Dave East Harry Fraud project that came out, but Dave East been quiet for a while, so it's gonna be an interesting one to see. Listen to there. Yep. So there's music. Some new music came out. People interested in that. There you go. I guess on the comic book side, the other big thing that happened was Frank Miller getting canceled or recanceled or properly canceled this time. Completely canceled. partially. Um, he got canceled to some degree or another over the last week. Why? I'm not entirely sure why. Um, he's a legend, and all the people calling for his head are anonymous. Not anonymous in the sense that people can't find them because they're withholding their identities. Anonymous insofar as no one cares who they are, so their identities are irrelevant. I really don't understand what the hatred is towards Frank Miller. He's an older guy, pretty sick guy, or has been sick in the past, in the very recent past. You can tell just from looking at him. You can tell from the photos I posted in my other video. He's not doing too hot. So why at this point he has to then be removed from convictions, I don't completely understand. I don't really understand Thought Bubble's decision making in getting rid of Frank Miller and stopping him from going to Thought Bubble, because he's a major draw for a lot of guests from around the world. And there's no guarantee you'll be able to see him again after Thought Bubble because of his age and because of the quality of his health. And Frank Miller is the most influential comic book artist of the last 50 years. Him and Alan Moore, I guess, kind of neck and neck. You could argue who is or isn't the most influential comic book writer of the last 50 years, but they both began kind of this dark and gritty deconstructionist thing that went on through the mid 80s into the 90s. Made superheroes darker for better, for worse. Kind of brought about that whole Vertigo wave of characters becoming grim and gritty. And I don't think anyone else really learned from what Frank Miller was doing, what Alan Moore was doing, which was deconstructing, but with a clear thematic purpose and with a thematic purpose tied into the character and the dynamics of the character. Frank Miller had something interesting to say about Batman's character by deconstructing him. And after The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, people deconstructed characters, but didn't necessarily have anything interesting to offer, any new intriguing observations about those characters as a result of that deconstruction. Frank Miller was able to analyze Batman through an interesting political lens. I guess some people argue a libertarian political lens, which is interesting. And I think the recent criticism of Frank Miller tries to kind of paint him as generically right wing, generically cantankerous, and kind of belligerent. But I mean, if you really go back and look at his work, I mean, for one, he's a real artist, so he's sensitive to some degree. He's not just a bully. He's definitely sensitive. You definitely kind of have to have some of a heart, some kind of a observational or empathic capacity to do what he's done, to write what he's written, to put yourself in the shoes of different characters and explore different vantage points and viewpoints to life. And I mean, when you look at The Dark Knight Returns and how he characterizes Superman, that's not something a conservative would have written, a Republican would have written, maybe be a better way to put it. Superman is not seen as particularly intelligent or really a good guy. He's pretty much just a tool of the government. He does what the president directs him to do without questioning it. And Batman is kind of an outsider, kind of a rebel, and not really easily defined in any kind of one particular category. I mean, he is, I guess, tough on crime, but that's kind of inherent in the Batman character. He's tough on crime. He doesn't like criminals. So that really wouldn't lean one way or another in any kind of political ideology. I mean, I guess Frank Miller was woke before it was cool. He gave people a gender bent Robin, something that would be right in line with today's tastes and what comic book writers do fairly frequently these days when they race swap and gender swap characters. So he's really ahead of his time in a lot of different respects. Um, he's a visionary. I mean, he created 300, Big Guy and Rusty, Hard Boiled, Sin City, 300. He wrote, I believe he wrote and directed The Spirit. I mean, for better or for worse, still amazing that a comic book artist was able to go from the page up to the screen. It wasn't with his creation; it was, Will Eisner's, of course, but he put his own personal stamp on it. Also, with Scarlett Johansson, I actually just remembered she was in that film too. I want to say along with maybe Gabriel Mott from Suits. But anyway, Spirit was all right. I know for whatever reason, critically, it gets a bit of a beat down, but I don't know why it gets beat down. I don't really think it's that bad. So yeah, Frank Miller's getting canceled, and I don't know why. I don't know what it's meant to accomplish. I think people cancel in a misguided attempt to stay safe, but I don't think canceling someone else's voice automatically empowers your voice. I think you also have to have something worth saying anyway, regardless of whether or not you cancel somebody else out. And I think a lot of times people cancel but have nothing else to contribute to culture. They just want to curate culture. They just want to cancel different people and different components of our culture, but don't want to give anything back, grow the culture, expand it into some other new interesting ways or bring it to some new other territory. And you just end up with less. Overall, the net result is a loss. And I think that kind of reductive discourse isn't really helpful. It doesn't really do anything. It's antithetical to art. I believe art should be illuminating. Art should be the beginning of a conversation. But recently, people have begun to use art to stop conversations, to shut people down, to actively mischaracterize other people. I don't know how sincere that is, but I think we should move to have more genuine discussions and more genuine conversations through our art. Society is very two-dimensional right now. Everything is very binary. People are either good or bad, and there's really no nuance, no investigation of the reasons why a person's actions are good or bad. Just if a person from a marginalized group says that a person is bad, a person is bad without any real interrogation or any kind of real pushback. I think we should be moving past that. I think cancel culture has been around for so long now that we should start to investigate cancel culture a little bit more closely and not just toss people out on the street as quick reactions to calls to be canceled. I don't think everybody's cancellation should be equal. I think we should look at the merits of an artist as a whole before we attempt to cancel them. That's especially true of Frank Miller. For him to have created the Batman, not a interpretation of Batman, but the interpretation of Batman, going back to The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One, he created Batman. All of the elements that we recognize of the character now, beyond what Bill Finger created, is from Frank Miller. The gruffer, the darker tone, even his design aesthetically being a little bit more blocky, a little bit more boxy. What Bruce Timm did with the animated series owes as much to Frank Miller as to Jack Kirby. The simple, bold graphics, the simple color palette, the really bright color palette in The Dark Knight Returns, all of that played a role in Batman's growth in the public consciousness. So I think it'd be impossible to cancel somebody that's done so much for the comic book medium and from Batman in particular. Then stepping away from Batman, he was integral to the development of Daredevil as a character. Daredevil wouldn't probably even exist anymore if not for Frank Miller. Frank Miller paved the way for Brian Bendis, Charles Soule, now Chip Zdarsky, Matt Fraction, anybody working on Daredevil now, all of the stuff that even got him to this point in Marvel Knights back in the 90s. Everything that got him to that point was Frank Miller's work, adding the ninja element, adding Elektra, her death at the hands of Bullseye. Um, all of that also inadvertently created the Ninja Turtles when the Ninja Turtles parodied what Frank Miller was doing with Daredevil to create the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So there's three franchises there that have left an indelible mark on pop culture due to Frank Miller's involvement. Um, he's an undisputed heavyweight of the medium. Um, a thoughtful man, not always easy to engage with. And I think that's what we have to move away from, just trying to digest people down, distill people down into sound bites, into just quick little phrases that explain their whole past or the whole work of art that they created. You can't really break The Dark Knight Returns down into one sentence. It's something you should experience for yourself. You can't break down Frank Miller's entire career in one sentence or define him by one work of art. You have to look at the totality of his career and the contributions he's made to comics and to popular culture as a whole. Um, I don't think his contributions can be understated or undersold. Holy Terror was not really good, but it was aggressively not good. So I'm not really sure what people might have thought it was meant to do. It wasn't very well put together from the beginning, from top to bottom. So I don't think you could argue he was really going for any kind of a real anti-Muslim put down attempt. It was basically just a journal entry, a diary entry. It was it was really mad. It was really fast. It was really unfocused. It was really emotional. It's really draining. You can see he put a lot of demons down on the page. He really exercised something out of his spirit to put it down on the page, and that's art. I think that comes with the territory. It's strange to try to reduce someone down to being a villain for using art, using their medium of choice to express their feelings. Um, it's his prerogative as an artist to use that art to vent, to come to terms with his own feelings, to try to explain his feelings to other people, um, and to create a conversation around his thoughts. He's inviting a conversation by making the art public. It's not a one-way street; it's a two-way street. If I'm an artist and I put something out into the public, now there's a discourse around the art I've created. It can never be me putting art out and then not expecting any kind of feedback or any kind of conversation or criticism. But criticism is different from canceling. Criticism is actually analyzing the merits of art and comparing it with other more or less successful projects from that artist and from the art community as a whole. And you're doing it to better understand the artist and to better understand yourself. Um, Art is supposed to be edifying. Um, if nothing else, we can learn from Frank Miller's mistakes when he made Holy Terror. He learned from his mistakes by making Holy Terror. He admitted that it was in bad taste and he couldn't make it now. So if he's already apologized, if he already sees the error of his ways, I don't understand what there is to be gained from canceling him now, or what cancellation will prove, or what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to hurt him. He's already old, he's already dying, he's already sick. Um, and he's already contributed so much to culture. Why can't we just try to learn as much as we can from him? Why can't we try to um understand him why can't we try to hold him accountable? But it should be a conversation. He should be allowed to voice his opinion, speak back. He shouldn't just be unilaterally silenced, especially when he's done so much and when it's clear he has so many interesting things to say inside and outside of the superhero realm. Uh, he should be allowed to have his opinions. He should be allowed to voice his thoughts. He should be allowed to be disagreeable. He should be allowed to be, if you find him that detestable. But um, shutting people down without a conversation isn't liberal. Um, it's actually very puritanical. Um, I hope people on both sides of the political spectrum can see that. I hope that we can engage with more thoughtful political discussions beyond just left and right or beyond surface level political observations anyway. Um, there are real political conversations to be had around Frank Miller, around the society we live in here in America and around the world as a whole. But we have to move past binaries and we have to move past vilifying people that disagree with us. Um, so yeah, I've been talking for about an hour. That was the Frank Miller thing, the cancellation thing. Um, what else has been happening? Let's see. Oh, Dr. Stone. Anybody reading? Anybody else like Dr. Stone by Boichi and Richiro Inagaki, the writer for I Shield 21? Check that out if y'all haven't already checked out Dr. Stone. It's really interesting. Great book, one of the best comics out. I guess I could get into some manga conversations in the future. I'm a manga fan. I read everything off the Shonen Jump app. It's only $2 a month, so really no reason why everybody doesn't have the Shonen Jump app. It's a lot of great comic books. Cheap, easy to get your hands on right there on your phone. You can read all kinds of Naruto, Chainsaw Man, which is of course the greatest comic book of the last 10 years. Bleach, Burn the Witch, Samurai 8, Dr. Stone. There's a lot of stuff to love on the Shonen Jump app. And there's always some new great stuff coming out too. Look out for Dandadan. When Dandadan comes out, that's going to be a problem. That's an amazing comic book. I'm excited to see that get translated here in the next couple months. What else came out? Oh, this new Black Widow comic. This was good. I don't know how many people are reading comics, but go to your local comic book shop. Find the Black Widow comic book by, I want to say, Kelly Thompson and Elena Casagrande. So yeah, check that out. That was good. A lot of fun art there. Oh, Amazing Fantasy this week. Amazing Fantasy came out by Kari Andrews. Great artist, great writer. And this is a great concept, putting Captain America in essentially the Savage Land, but we don't know if it's the Savage Land yet. He hasn't said where exactly everyone is in Amazing Fantasy, but it's like a sword and sandal Conan, but with superheroes. It's fun. It's a great concept. The kind of thing comic books should be doing more of. The last issue of Beta Ray Bill came out this week. This is not the last issue, but second to last issue. But just I have the last one, but I can't find it. It's behind me somewhere. But yeah, everybody go read Beta Ray Bill by Daniel Warren Johnson. He's a great artist and a thoughtful writer. Beta Ray Bill was more interesting than I thought it would be. Got into some more interesting themes than I thought it would get into, and had a lot of great action. There's a lot to love there. What's not to love, really? Good character, great character design, great artist. It's a no-brainer. Go check out Beta Ray Bill and Amazing Fantasy. And what has DC been doing? Oh, next Batman, but nobody really cared about that when I reviewed it. It looks like it got no views. The Black Widow thing went micro viral, mini viral, whatever you would say. Got like 30 views. So people wanted that. No one wanted the next Batman review, but I'm telling you, the next Batman Second Son. So well done. John really wrote some really interesting stuff, some really compelling characters there, making very strange and uncomfortable points. And I think that's the point of writing, making people feel uncomfortable, making readers feel uncomfortable, and putting the characters themselves in uncomfortable situations on the page. Uh, so yeah, go check that out. Um, it's worth your time. Quite a lot of good comic books out there. If anybody wants recommendations, I could definitely send you a few. Comment down below. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap the little stream up for right now. Maybe I'll pick it back up in a few hours. I don't know how I kind of get the word out that I'm doing it, but all right. Talk to you later. You guys have a good night. Let me know what else you'd like to see, either in the comments or like the video if you like it. And see y'all next time. Bye.